Welcome to Why Don't We Dress for Dinner Anymore? With our host, Teddy Krochman, senior style icon and boho goddess.
And Melissa Pierce, my co host, entrepreneur, documentarian, and natural redhead. So let's do our little merch toast. Why don't we dress for dinner anymore?
I don't know, Teddy. Why don't we? Tell me about your outfit, though.
Okay, very boho chic was given to me by a company called Buddha Trends, where they actually specialize in making boho chic outfits. So I thought I would wear something that is typically, I would not say on my style radar most of the time. I would say,
Really adorable, though.
yeah, it is cute. And so that's why I thought I would wear it. And it's different.
Oh, explain it to people listening. What are you wearing?
I'm wearing a peasant dress, which peasant ethnic clothes are kind of the boho vibe. I have a lapis necklace on.
It's fantastic.
With a big jumbo lapis matching ring. I also have these really cute boots on, but I don't know how to show. Let me take off. Sure. I'm going to take my boots off and I'll show them to you because they're really cute, everyone. Look at how cute these are.
They're cute. They're like patchwork.
They're patchwork, and then they get like buttons on the side and they zip. They're really cute. And I didn't want to stick my whole leg up there, but they're really cute. So it's a whole vibe. I even have like a little pattern coat that they sent to me, a little flowery coat. So I look very boho chic. And I thought, well, you know what? Boho chic is back. It was shown for the fall winter trends in 2024. So, Melissa, let's talk a little bit about the origins of boho chic, which of course occurred in my youth.
Oh, all the trends started in Teddy's youth.
In my youth.
So that
started in my youth. Late 60s, early 70s, really was more started by the hippies.
Okay.
The quote unquote hippies, the people who were out protesting the Vietnam War, free love, let's have some doobies and let's spark up a doobie and listen to some music and get a bag of Fritos. That was the group that really kind of started the trend of boho chic, and then it caught onto the fashion radar. And so, of course, a lot of the designers started purposefully making clothes that looked in the boho kind of vibe. Vivienne Westwood, as we were talking about, was one of them.
Wait a minute. So Vivienne Westwood did boho chic.
Mm-hmm.
Then she did these incredible corsets, but then she also was responsible for bringing like ripped jeans into the mainstream.
Yes.
Like Vivienne Westwood is more powerful than I ever.
Yeah. Vivienne, well, yeah, she was a top designer, British designer.
Huh.
And she did change up her looks, although they were always on the edge. Like she was another one, even before Versace and, the famous Versace dress with all the safety pins that Helen, what's that actress? Elizabeth Hurley wore.
Yeah.
And it was black and had all the safety pins up the side. That was Versace, but actually Vivienne Westwood did the safety pin look first, where she had clothes pinned up with safety pins.
Right. And then the punk rockers did that.
Punk rockers, which probably is where Vivienne got it.
She got it.
Yeah, Vivienne loved her punk rockers.
Right. Because they were all like anti-consumerist.
Yeah.
We don't.
Anti-establishment, anti-corporatist.
Just anti-everything.
Anti your ants.
Anti-ants.
They were totally against ants. Both the insects and the relatives.
Right. Anti-aunties and anti-ant.
The insects and the relatives, totally.
Done. They were done.
They were done.
So, it went from punk rockers. Wait, boho chic, though, went from hippies who were pulling boho chic, and why?
Well, again, it was the anti-corporatist, anti-war movement. We want to be more like, peasant look. So we're more like the people. We're not wearing tailored suits. We're not wearing ties. We're not looking like corporate America.
I see.
We're wearing clothes that you would never see in corporate America.
Got it. So it was still it was like a whole
anti-establishment movement. And again, in the 90s, very anti-establishment.
Right. So we're talking about, and
now it's coming back, ironically, in 2024. anti-establishment.
2025. Yeah.
Yeah,
Winter.
I'm sorry for 20,
Yeah.
but no, it was for winter
For fall.
2024.
Oh,
So for this,
got it.
and it's ironic that this is the year that the quote unquote anti-establishment candidate won for president of the United States. The man whose name we shall not speak.
Baltimore's. Baltimore. So
So you can see we're in an anti-establishment environment now. Now, as far as clothing is harmless as far as I'm concerned, unless you want to talk about, environmental stuff. But, overall, wearing this particular outfit is not, going to harm anybody. But this quote unquote anti-establishment movement that they think Trump is leading, I think is going to take us down a rabbit hole. First of all, he has no interest in clothes to cover because he's always wearing that stupid navy blue suit with that oversized red tie to cover his face. We have nothing fashion-wise to cover in the front of
so excited. Oh, we can talk about fashion all the
Kamala and her chucks and pearls. Nothing now. Nothing.
No.
All we got is him.
That's it.
Him.
Thanks a lot, America. You've ruined our fashion
Right.
voyeurism.
Exactly. Nothing to talk about for the next 4 years.
Although, then again, the people who elected him, salt of the earth. So they're wearing what? Jeans, terrible looking baseball caps.
Red, one of my favorite colors. He's ruined for me. Red.
Oh,
Megas, yeah.
That's so strange.
That should be. And you want to know something? It's an ill-fitting hat. It does not fit him right. If you notice, that trucker cap comes like all the way down to his eyelids. A trucker cap typically, if you're going to do a hip hop look, then you just leave the bills flat.
Right.
If you're going to be, a trucker, quote unquote trucker chic, it's got to be going rounded. He's got it neither. I can't tell if it's rounded or flat. It's kind of like worked out, and then it comes down over his eyes like a sun cap.
Did you just call it gorked out?
Gorked, yeah, gorked.
Yeah.
That was a big word in the hospital industry.
I've never heard that word in my life. You could have just made that.
No, we used to refer to patients. We used to refer to patients who were acting a little wacky as being all gorked out. It was just an inside kind of word, gorked out.
Well, yeah. Now we're gonna make it a thing.
I'm gorked out.
You're gorked out.
I'm gorked today.
You're acting pretty gorked out.
I am. But what can I tell you? It's residual sadness from the election.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I don't know what's this going to say about our fashion universe. Fashion is, you can say a lot of things, but fashion is an inclusive community more so now than it ever was. I mean, you see, of course, tons of gay people, tons of women. We are starting to see more mature women in fashion. When I go to fashion events, it's a very eclectic group of people, very loving and accepting of each other. So it's kind of a nice environment, at least socially, to be in. And my hope would be that that's the way our world would have moved forward. And instead, it seems like we're pulling apart, which really, it disappoints me. It really disappoints me.
it's really disappointing.
Yeah.
What I learned this week.
What?
So we've talked about this on and off. When reading this book, it takes a long time to read because it's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Called Joyful Militancy.
Right.
Okay. But in it, I finally gotten to this part where it's like, well, the root words of friendship and freedom, they both mean love and connection. So in thinking through what's happened this week, I was like, how does freedom mean love and connection? Because, what we think of freedom as like freedom from an oppressor. And it's always like, I'm free, meaning you've broken free of something.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, freedom. It actually means you have been freed into your community, into a loving space, because slavery was it taking you away from.
Right. You're being held back by your people or your community.
It's freedom from your oppressor, but your oppressing it's the oppression of not having a community so you're being free to your safe space, your community.
Right.
So I'm thinking about that and I'm like, oh, we're moving towards this kind of authoritarian kind of thing and our freedoms are going to be taken away. And I had to step back and be like, no, well, something like rights, certainly all of those things, but actually I am very grounded in my freedom. I know my community. Fashion knows its community and they're going to keep each other safe in that friendship and that freedom to be connected.
I hope so.
And I'm kind of excited to see, like, selfishly, I'm super excited to see what kind of fashion comes out as rebellion against what's happening in the world.
Well, I think we're going to see a lot.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of rebellion against establishment, corporatism, fascism.
I wonder what that is going to look like.
Well, I went to
given rich genes.
Yeah, I went to a preview of a designer this weekend named Titus, and he has a marvelous collection. It was just a preview. His full collection he's going to show in 2025. But his mainstay of his collection was ripped skirts, on men. So, again, very anti-establishment, ripped skirts with real high, slits up the front, jackets with like a heart shape cut out in the back. So maybe a message of hope and love.
I love it.
I love this one jacket he had. It was really cute. It was a black jacket. It was some kind of material cloth. I can't remember what it would be, but it had like a short sleeve on one side, like a cap sleeve on one side, and then a full long sleeve on the other side. And then it had little silver rings like placed all over. It was really cute, really adorable. So you could see it wasn't like your everyday kind of stuff that you would see at Macy's or Bloomingdale's or whatever. It was very artistic. And like I said, for the most part, he calls it, I think his collection was called Roar, but it's like raw. So it's RAW and then an R at the end. So it sounds like roar, like a lion or something like that.
Right.
But it's raw R. And then it's called Genesis. And interwoven in it.
You know what I love is that when you try to soften a lion's roar for a child, they write it roar also. Like a stuffed lion will not roar, it will go
roar. Yeah, roar. This is like roar. Right.
Feet.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And because he's a big fan, he explained to everybody at the event that he's always been a huge fan of dinosaurs. So when he did like a little video of his collection, it looked like it was done at the Natural History Museum where they have all the dinosaurs. And so he had the models posing around dinosaurs.
That's hilarious.
And it's kind of like, and he calls it Genesis.
Wait, Teddy, what's your favorite? Sorry. This is really important for me to know.
My favorite dinosaur is Tyrannosaurus Rex because he's got the little arms, but he's very powerful. He's also the hugest, but he's got these weird little arms. They could never figure out why the Tyrannosaurus Rex's arms were so tiny when he was like the largest dinosaur of all of them. But he had like these little shrimpy arms. So I thought that always made him interesting.
I think they found a bigger dinosaur than Megalosaurus.
Really? Oh, it could be. I was more up on dinosaurs when my son was like 5-6 years old. Like this was amazing. Alex could remember the name of all of these dinosaurs. Yeah, Mom, that's the Brachiosaurus. I'm Brachiosaurus. What the hell is that? The Triceratops of this and that. And he had all the dinosaurs. So I was really up on the dinosaurs then. But, he's now he could care less about dinosaurs.
Right. He's not, but nobody's asking you what your favorite dinosaur is.
No, so I've kind of forgotten. But Tyrannosaurus Rex was always kind of a little favorite because he looked like he was begging a little bit. Like,
we're keeping that. We're keeping that in it.
I think that sound hurt.
All right.
So yeah, that was Titus's collection.
And Titus he's a black man, yes?
Yeah.
Glass designer. That's very cool. So I saw that in lots of ripped jeans. So we want to get into anti-establishmentarianism with ripped jeans and where that came from. Because I honestly thought that my generation invented.
Oh no.
Of course, because I grew up in the 90s and I was just a dumb teenager.
Yeah.
I was like, ripped jeans, because screw you.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But
It really started in the 70s.
Damn it.
And to tell you the truth, like we were talking earlier,
Yeah.
I don't remember wearing ripped jeans in the 70s. I do remember wearing them in the 80s, probably because they became more corporatist. So, in other words, the stores were creating the already ripped jeans. Or in the 70s, kids would rip their own jeans. So that was more original.
Or they would just fire them until they wore out.
Yeah, but a lot of, they just cut them and then rip them.
I mean, that's what I did in the 90s.
Yeah, and they make their own, but I bought the, corporatist version of the pre-ripped jeans, you bought them in the store.
Sure.
So that's the first time I remember wearing them, but it was interesting. We were both reading up on the ripped jeans.
Yeah.
It really was during the 70s, again, anti-establishment.
Right.
But originally, I think I read that it started because jeans were at one time just a working man's pants.
That's right.
So it was for the working people. And then, of course, after working morning, noon, and night for years and wearing probably, alternating with 2 pairs of jeans, their jeans would start to get little holes in them, little wears and tears, kind of things. They put patches on them. Patches was a very big thing in the 70s. I remember people putting patches on their asses and their knees and all that kind of stuff. I remember my cousin, shout out to Nick Douglas, used to come with her boyfriend, Nick, who's now her husband of 9 million years. But Nick used to come with patches on his jeans, and my aunt, my cousin's mother, would be livid. She'd say, "Why are you bringing that guy around? Can't he afford a decent pair of jeans?"
Right. Oh, are we those people now?
But Nick was
like, why don't people get dressed for dinner more? And recall that you were like,
but I was always that way. I was always dressed.
But then you're like, oh, the downfall came in corporate casual and people started wearing jeans to work. And I'm like, oh shit.
Right.
Now I see it. See it. Like that it's been watered down enough that jeans are still anti-establishment. Right. But you can wear them on casual Fridays.
Right. You can still, as long as they don't have holes in the butt or something like that.
Right. But now we moved on to soft pants.
Yeah. So now nobody wants to wear the jeans because even those are too uncomfortable.
Well, talk about anti-establishment, right?
Yes.
Now they're like, those jeans are too restrictive.
Right.
They restrict my body and I won't stand for it. I'm going for the anti-establishment of Lululemon.
Yeah, Lululemon's that cost $100 for a pair of stretch pants. I could buy the same pair for $19 at Costco.
Corporate America.
Where it's well,
it cost $100.
All right, let me ask you a very politically correct question.
All right.
Do you think that we've been given all these reasons? We asked it of all of our guests. Why do you think that everybody's dressing so casually? A very common response is there's 2 common responses: COVID and people want to be comfortable.
Right.
But let me ask this. We're a very overweight society. I mean, the United States, the guesstimate is that about 70% of the population in the United States is considered overweight. And I think it's 30% to 40% are considered morbidly obese, which means only about 30% 30 to 40% of our population is considered within the healthy weight range. Do you think that the fast food industry is responsible for this casual dressing? Because everybody's gotten so damn overweight that they can't fit in their darn clothes. And so they want clothes that will expand as they're eating their damn fast food. I'm being honest now. I'm being real.
Actually,
I'm being real.
I would like to take more steps back and blame it on more things.
Okay. How about blame it on the bossa nova?
Okay, blame it on the bossa nova. I don't know what that sounds like.
That was a song. Blame it on the bossa nova. The dance song. Okay. Yeah, blame it on the bossa nova.
Blame it on car culture. Blame it on building a entire country around driving in cars.
Yeah.
And where things are so far apart that you don't have time to get from work to home.
Right.
And have time to make a healthy dinner for your family.
Right.
Then blame it on, this idea of expansion, of capitalism, of conquest, of I don't know. Blame it on colonization.
Yeah.
Right? It all gets there. We like car culture brought us fast food, right? And I mean, McDonald's started as a vendor, a street stand where you could get a quick meal on your way to something else.
Yes.
But then it became
It was inexpensive.
right. You can't travel. I think it's something like 50 miles without running into a McDonald's.
So 50 miles. You
It's
can't go
like
2 miles without it.
right in a city, but I
Yeah.
don't think there's anywhere. I don't think there's
Yeah.
anywhere in the United States you can go within.
Right.
It's sort of like small
Yeah.
amount of miles. So I like we could blame it on fast food, but
Yeah.
honestly, I think we need to blame it on this idea of like I don't know, this fast-paced corporate lifestyle that we have all signed up to live with.
Well, okay, then let me go back just a tad. Let me go back to the 70s.
Oh gosh. Oh, we always come back to the 70s.
Well, right, because the 70s was everything. Like I say, there's two things that I know. The Greeks invented everything, and everything began in the 70s as far as counterculture. Not really, but anyway.
Well, not really about the Greeks.
Yeah, not really, but you know.
But Teddy,
let me get my fantasy.
Teddy is Greek.
Let me get my fantasy.
All right.
Okay, so here we are, women demanding to have equal pay,
Yes.
demanding to have college educations instead of these. Remember, they used to have the co-ed schools where they let a few girls in, kind of thing.
Right. You couldn't actually get a degree. You could just basically audit.
Right. So we didn't have women going into professions the way they are now. We were living off of a one income family with the wife playing the happy homemaker for the most part. My mom always worked. And I'm sure there were plenty of people in my generation who had mothers who worked. But for the most part, it was the kind of, not really, but pretend leave it to beaver family where the mom stayed home and cooked and cleaned, made sure that the family was all taken care of while the dad went and made the money. Now, women got their rights as far as being able to participate more in the workplace. Right now, women are more educated than men. There are actually more women going to college than there are men.
True. And a lot more Black women going
yes,
to college.
We are outpacing men as a whole, whatever the race, as a whole completely.
Yes.
So now,
who's making dinner?
It's gotten so
Taco Bell
expensive because naturally now all families have two incomes. So the more money we make, the more the corporate America wants to, siphon that off for themselves. But the bottom line is, we can't have it both ways, ladies. Either you want to work or you want to stay home and take care of your kids and relax. You can't do both. The only thing you can do is hold your partner equally responsible for doing some of the housework, doing some of the cooking, taking care of the kids as well, too. I think women are not, you're still standing, their ground when it comes to that. And so therefore, that's why you have burnt out people who don't feel like cooking after work, because it usually falls on the woman to do that. And especially in single households, you don't have much choice.
And I will only offer one pushback there because that's all true.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my fucking job to hold my partner accountable for doing his job.
Yeah, you have to yell at
the
him.
Bare minimum.
You do. You have to
I
yell
should not have to put in the emotional labor to make him be my partner.
No, but I do.
So then men in relationships need to hold themselves accountable for being actual partners.
But they don't.
Yeah, let's stop that. Don't qualify it.
Right.
That's the bare minimum.
Right.
That's it.
Well, here's a perfect example. I do all now. I'm at home now, but even when I had a corporate job for 30 years. Okay. I do all of the housework in the house. I clean all the bathrooms. I do all the dusting. I take care of all the bills. I do everything, right? But when I started working, I said to Ken, you got to help me here because I will crack up if I have to do everything.
Sure.
And so he has to wash all the floors. He does all the grocery shopping. He does about 90% of the cooking intake. When I used to come home from work, he would have dinner waiting for me.
Thanks, Ken.
So please, we've been married almost 50 years. If I can get it done by this old man over here, You young ladies can do it as well too. What disappoints me is that my generation is the age of your generation's parents.
Mhm.
So what that's telling me is that my generation did not do that good of a job with our daughters to teach them that that's one of the things they should look for in a partner is someone who is used to sharing equally responsibility so you don't have to nag like I did originally.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot more women are choosing not to have long-term partners. Especially if they're
Yeah.
especially if they're heterosexual,
Right.
because they like they don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And yes, like generationally,
Yeah.
like I was raised to be the perfect wife and mother of
Right.
like a in a Mormon household,
Yeah.
and I had to learn like how not to behave that way
Yeah.
culturally so that I could raise my
Right.
children.
So it was partly the way you were brought up.
And 100%.
Yeah.
Well, my mom was saying, "Hey, Melissa, you can be anything. You can
Yeah.
be anything you want." It was very clear
Right.
what
Direction you were supposed
what
to go.
direction I was supposed to go in.
Yeah.
Like you can be anything,
Right.
which is why I didn't go to college until my 40s.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I have deprogrammed myself enough. So that's true. Back to fashion. Pull it
Yeah.
all back to fashion.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah,
There you go with the comfort
honestly,
clothes.
yeah, the comfort clothes. It is also because fashion tends to be pretty inflexible
Mhm. As far as what? What do you
as
mean?
far as body size. Like, and you can say unhealthy weight and all of these things.
Right.
Like fashion is really inflexible in body size,
Right.
and we don't as a like as a an industry
Mhm.
make interesting, beautiful clothes, enough interesting, beautiful clothes
Yeah.
that actually fit the bodies
Yeah.
that exist now. We are still making them for an ideal.
Right.
So I think fashion also has to catch up to where culture is.
Yeah.
Like they're fashion is always trying to lead culture through something,
Yeah.
but you also have to listen to your like who you're dressing.
Mhm.
And if you're only dressing, say, 40% of the population,
Mhm.
then you're missing this 60% who is wearing size 16 above.
Mhm.
So, I think
Yeah.
it goes both ways. I mean, if I can't wear a pair of pants because they don't come in my size,
Right.
or they fit weirdly because they were made for a
Right.
specific different type of body, eh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna choose leggings.
Right.
Um, but is it anti-establishment, or is it that's what's available to me?
Right. I think it's more that it's available to.
Yeah.
I don't think women are thinking of making political statements when they put their leggings on and an oversized shirt. I think, like you said, it's really what fits them comfortably. The fashion industry has not done a great job. You can see they try a little bit more now. Like recently, I went to a fashion show this weekend and they had some plus size models, on the runway. So there is a little bit more of an effort to expand the size, um, you know, uh, for designs. But, for any of the designers, like couture designers, you're still going to be looking at tops a size 8, 10 is their biggest size. It just is. And, I think that should change, of course. But in some way, as we expand the waistbands or the clothes or the sizes, in some ways, I don't know if we're encouraging people to just kind of be unhealthy. I mean, let's face it.
Oh, I have.
You can say love your body and all that stuff, and that's true. You should always love yourself no matter where you're at in life.
Sure.
But I think that we need to be more conscious of the crappy food that we're sticking in our bodies. We have higher rates of cancer because of the crappy food we're sticking in our bodies. The environment that the crappy food causes also contaminates and pollutes us. But in the bottom line, are we really just making excuses for being unhealthy and looking bad?
I maybe, but also like you confronting those things is like people confronting their issues. It's like that's a very hard thing for them to do.
Yeah.
And like changing your entire lifestyle
Yeah.
is a long process, not an overnight process.
No.
And like making those things uh change your actual physical appearance, that is a long
Yeah.
road. So, you still have to clothe the body.
Right.
Yeah. But
So
there is this
right.
unhealthiness. And I had this idea because I was talking about how we're like colonization and expansion.
Yeah.
And like, we've made suburbs so that you have to drive everywhere and all of that. And I was like, well, we've expanded everything, right? We've expanded so many things.
Concluding our waistline.
Exactly. And that's what I was like, it's the body, if that's the only thing left to expand.
Yeah.
That is the only new
Yeah.
way that we can take up
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
And you think about that in a psychological sense where someone needs to take up space. And I'm like, that's a like, oh, is that a taking up space issue? And that's probably too deep. You're looking at me like,
No.
Melissa, you
Yeah.
know too much.
Yeah. You're reading. I think you're reading too much these days.
I think so.
Most
Fascinating.
most people that I've talked to who do have real weight issues. I'm not talking about 5 or 10 pounds. I'm talking about people who have real weight issues. It seems one of the common themes in that is eating your feelings. It's like instant gratification. I'm feeling sad, so I'm gonna eat half a bag of Oreos. I'm angry, so I'm gonna stand in the refrigerator and stick whatever's in the refrigerator in my mouth. I broke up with my boyfriend. I'm gonna get a pint of Ben and Jerry's and
Yeah.
jam it down my throat. There is a lot of that happening. I'm not saying that that's most people's everyday life,
Right.
but there is a lot of emotional eating going on.
Sure. Sure.
I
Yeah.
know it's kind of almost in some ways replaced. Well, you got two things that help to mask feelings. It's alcohol and drugs, and it's food. I mean, those are the two things that we have that make us feel better instantly, but have long-term um, detrimental things that can happen to us from overindulging in both.
Right.
And so while we encourage people not to overdrink because of course it's dangerous as well too. You can kill somebody when you're driving, whatever. But still, we know the overall effects of alcohol and drugs, especially alcohol. Believe it or not, more deaths happen every year from alcohol than all the drugs combined.
Yeah.
All of the drugs combined.
I
And
do
you can
believe
pick that up at your local grocery store.
Yeah.
But we know cancers are many cancers come from over drinking, liver disease, obesity, diabetes, heart problems. All that stems from overeating. Well, you can be over drinking, but you can say the same thing for overeating too. People who overeat have type 2 diabetes, they have heart problems, they have blood pressure issues. There's so many health issues
And then
that I don't think we're educating people enough about. What can you do instead of going and grabbing for a cookie? What can you do instead of going and grabbing for the piece of pie?
I will push back and tell you that my plus size friends are very aware of all of these things.
Uh-huh.
And that like overeating maybe is something of it, but a lot of them don't. And it just is a long road. And in order for them to feel like safe
Yeah.
and loved in their body, they
Yeah.
have to do those things gently. It's a gentle, slow process. And then it's a whole fight between the ideal body
Mhm.
and the actual healthy body and like what that difference is.
Mhm.
There's definitely that. We have an abundance of crap.
Right.
And
I mean, look at the grocery store. It's shelf after shelf of just junk. You shouldn't even be eating. And high sodium, high fructose corn syrup. All the bad things for you.
right, and because it's a consumerist culture,
Yeah.
we're taught to consume.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what is the actual healthy balance of that? Are we actually thinking about it? I'm like, we were talking about this earlier. I was like, listen, just remember the average IQ of an American citizen is 98.
Mhm.
Like they're not putting that much thought into it.
Can I please interject into that?
Okay.
Do we understand that the food that we put in our bodies affects our brain and our ability to think? So maybe in the meantime, we're clogging our brains so we can't think and we don't have the IQs that we used to because we're eating junk food.
Well, listen, United States fashion people that we love, uh, when when a society gets to about 97 in the IQ range, that is when the society starts to break down. So if you keep putting junk food into your
Right.
body and your brain doesn't work, then shit's gonna be fucked up.
Right.
Now I have to put an explicit content warning on it.
That's all right. There's should only be adults watching this show anyway. This is for adults only fashion.
Not the children, and now I'll never get a job.
Oh,
Because
you'll
like all
get
this
it.
dropping the F bombs all the
No,
time.
who doesn't? Give me a break. But
My clients love
I
me.
think that is one of the explanations. Not the only, of course. There's a lot of. It's a more complex issue.
Of
But I
course.
think weight is an issue in the casualization of the dressing of our country. I mean, I just believe it is. My husband has struggled with his weight since I met him. And, he says, Teddy, it's just not that easy. He'll go and he'll eat a sandwich, at 9 o'clock at night. When is the last thing you should be doing, like an hour or two before you go to bed, is to eat something? So that's a hard habit that he's, tried to break, kind of on and off kind of a thing. Um, so it is in many ways, even if you haven't identified it as such, it really is an illness. It's a way to mask emotions. It's a way to feel if you're feeling empty or there's, some kind of something missing, to fill it up temporarily with food. There are a lot of issues that people have around food, and many times it may even be the way you were brought up. If, like Melissa says, you had both parents who were busy working, or you grew up in a single parent household, that parent, I can understand it thoroughly. It's not like I can't empathize with it. But if you're coming home at 6 o'clock at night, you got up at 6 in the morning, get the kids off to school, get yourself decent for work, go to work, put up with whatever aggravation you have for the day at work, drive yourself home in traffic, whatever that is. By the time you get home at 6 o'clock at night, the last thing you're thinking is, what is the recipe that I'm going to whip up for right now? You're going to just grab whatever's the easiest. Go get this at the carryout stand. Let me grab a frozen pizza out of the refrigerator and I'll make a vegetable so it'll be healthy. So I certainly understand that, especially your generation, who became what I think is the first full working generation. My generation was still, a lot of them were the little happy homemakers and all that.
Right. We were the latchkey kids that grew up into the
right. And so, and I would say to myself, I don't know how these women do it, because when I had my son, I did not start working a full-time job until he was almost 10 years old. Now, granted, shortly after, and I've said this story before, shortly after he was about 2 years old, I started going back to college. And then for the next 6 years, I went back and got my bachelor's and master's degree. So it wasn't like I wasn't doing anything other than housework. I was at the time, and talk about over-functioning, I was at the time going all the way downtown for school, coming home, had homework, had papers to write, had tests to take, still did all the family grocery shopping, still did all the cooking, home cooking. My mother-in-law lived with us, served her too, cleaned the house, raised a child, and went to school. So, I mean, I did all that for 10 years. It wasn't like I wasn't, I was sitting around relaxing. But
eating bonbons?
Yeah, sitting around eating bonbons. But I still have to say that once I started the career path, I noticed a lot of the younger women were getting pregnant and they'd be back at work like 2 or 3 months after they had the kid. And I'm like, I remember that first year with my son was a nightmare. Getting up in the middle of the night. My husband was working a goofy shift at work, so I would be the one getting up constantly.
Right. But and it is still a nightmare.
Yeah.
But it is like, but this generation, also my generation, there was enough studies that came out that time women take away from their career negatively impacts their earning power. And
right.
So,
they have to come back.
Right. And so the trade-off is, right, you send your kids to very expensive daycare.
Yeah.
Because that money that you're putting into that you're struggling with is going to come back to you
eventually. Yeah.
But it won't if you stay home, which is wild.
Right.
Which is wild.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I have to say, the women of your generation, I admired highly when I was in the workplace, because I was like, I don't know how these women do it. I could barely take care of this kid, and I was home most of the time.
Listen,
working and doing all this crap, I think I'd be ready. I would be eating Doritos and
And leggings.
and wearing leggings. So I mean, I understand it, ladies. I understand it. It's just at some point we have to try to rein this in. We're trying to rein it in just a little bit because it's not healthy either, and that's why when I see women my age, many of them have not been able to take care of themselves the way they want. Many do put on weight during menopause, and that's a real thing because all of a sudden your whole metabolism just gets shot to hell. So, you eat one cupcake and all of a sudden you're 2 pounds heavier. So I totally get that whole thing too. It's just that there's been so many studies on longevity, age longevity. One of the common factors all around the world is there are no heavy people who are living at 90 years old. You go to a nursing home and you show me one really heavy 90-year-old person. They don't exist because they've died.
Also, I just want to reiterate, don't get any stupider. Democracy is depending on you.
Yes. Eat healthy.
Feed your brain.
Feed your brain so you know how to make decisions. Your whole ability to think logically is spoiled if you're eating ice cream and Chips Ahoy every day.
Just remember, society breaks down when people get stupider than about a 97 IQ.
Yes. There you go. And we're at that right now, gang. So we all need to start eating our lettuce and vegetables. Stay away from red meat.
I think we're at 97.8. Good luck, everyone. This show has gone off the rails.
It has. But we would like to hear your comments as far as, do you think we're off the rails as far as, especially my commentary on my thoughts on why people have let themselves get so unhealthily heavy? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that that we have become an unhealthy society? Now I'm not judging anybody, although I'm a very judgmental person. You know that, Melissa.
No way.
I'm extremely judgmental, and I will own that. I own it. It's one of my flaws, but I will say I'm judgmental. But I don't want anybody out there feeling bad because you're overweight or punishing yourself because you're overweight. I just want us as a society to think about what direction we're going in health-wise, because as Melissa points out, it not only affects your individual health, it not only affects your lifespan, but it affects the choices that we make politically for our world in general, for the laws that we allow to be passed, for thinking about our community as a whole instead of just thinking about our own individual world. There was a meme that I posted up on Instagram the other day, and it said, I am not going to trade my soul so I can save 10 cents on a dozen eggs and some gas.
Exactly. That's what my daughters and I are also discussing this. I was like, wow, your body's just got sold out so someone could save money on gas. What's that like?
Right. Exactly.
So that's a real thing. I also don't want people to misconstrue what we're saying.
Right.
That overweight people have low IQs because they're like, oh, someone's going to take that.
No.
So not misconstruing that. I mean, they're, but yeah, we need.
No, it's that. No, we're not saying that overweight. My husband is, he is almost, I don't think he's ever had an IQ test, but he's got to be at genius level. I mean, the man has a memory of retaining information like you wouldn't believe. Me, on the other hand, it goes in one ear and out the other.
Right. No,
I might sound articulate today about one topic, and then tomorrow you'll ask me about it, and I'll say, I forgot.
Michael and I have a term for this. Michael's got a noun brain. He remembers the names of things.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Right.
I'm the worst.
I've got a cloud brain. I remember a concept as a whole and all of the history behind it. But if you ask me what the name of all of those things are, I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know. It goes in one ear and out the other. But I will tell you something. If it really, really interests me, I will retain it. I don't have room for a lot of garbage in my brain. But I will say, going back to the heavy people are not stupid, that is absolutely true. My husband has had a weight problem all of his life. He's one of the smartest people that I've ever known. But when we're talking overall, in general, Melissa, yes, eating unhealthy will bring down your ability to think clearly, to think logically. It does affect your brain cells.
That's true.
And alcohol destroys brain cells. So, the more brain cells you have, the smarter you are, the more you can think, the more brain connections your brain makes.
Yeah, there are tons of studies about Gen Z doesn't drink as much as Gen X.
That's great.
Or the boomers did.
That's great.
They actually drink so little that
That's fabulous.
brewers now have started to make a lot of non-alcoholic decisions. So they're introducing non-alcohols and
Wow, that is so encouraging.
Isn't that great about
because my generation, they were a bunch of booze hounds. I mean, drunk was the thing. You get drunk or high, drunk or stoned. That's where we were at. And my generation, now that we're older, we're not drinking as much, but we're toking on the marijuana.
Same with Gen X. Gen X is also not drinking as much. Also doing probably a lot more marijuana now that it's cannabis, now that it's legal. And also, I think my generation is much more open to experimenting with like microdosing.
Yes.
Various
mushrooms,
various things, ketamine, LSD.
Yeah. Right.
I think they're much more open to
right. So there's always something to kind of numb you out. There's different replacements, I know. But the one warning I would say about cannabis is there hasn't been any big studies that show any huge long-term effects from cannabis that I'm aware of. And I'm a former substance use disorder counselor. Alcohol will kill you. It will absolutely kill you. Here's the one warning with the cannabis, though. It will give you the munchies. And that's one of my husband's problems. He goes and he tokes at night to go and sleep. And then all of a sudden he's hitting the refrigerator. So we've had to try to break that chain of events because, a lot of times it will give you the munchies. So, and that's another problem because now it's driving you to eat, so anyway, that's our lecture for the day.
It went totally off the rails.
It did, but it kind of was interesting to talk about it because
you really had a lot to say this episode.
Well, you know what? Is there any episode that I don't have a lot to say? I might share about. And when I was in grade school, I had a teacher who would constantly put me behind the easel, and she would tell Teddy, quit visiting with your neighbors so much. Teddy, you're such a little chatterbox. And I would have to go take my desk. I would have to drag my desk and go sit out in the hallway. She'd have to separate me from everybody.
Oh, that's funny. My teachers were always bringing me into the conversation.
I'm a ballerina.
I'm a daydreamer.
And see, that's why we're a good co-host, because we're synergistic. We kind of, we feed off of each other in different ways. It's kind of like a flea and a dog. Who's the that's actually symbiotic. Sorry, I got my symbiotics and symbiotic. Symbiotic relationship.
Hippopotamuses. Which one of them is the one picking their teeth? Oh, this is terrible. Can we just say we're friends? Friends.
We're a symbiotic relationship.
Get back to
we are a community. We are family. Okay. Anyway, whatever. It all ties back to fashion somehow. How does this tie back to anything?
We were talking about semiotics. We were talking about
semiotics and synergistic. They're two different words.
Right. You're talking about what fashion communicates. You're like, it's not that deep. And I'm like, Teddy, it's so deep.
We don't even know.
You don't even know when you put something on your body, what you're subconsciously trying to communicate with.
Absolutely. Well, look at all the factors that we just brought up. We did a whole hour practically on how eating affects your ability to think and what your clothing options are.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, we need to get with it with clothing options for bigger women. That's all I'm saying is there are some incredible women out there that deserve to wear whatever Alexander McQueen is.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yes,
beautiful. So larger women. Yes, they deserve better fashion.
You guys too. Shoot, I forgot the designer's name. You just went to one of his shows.
Titus.
If Titus is putting men in ripped jean skirts, I expect to see some nice large men in ripped jean skirts.
Yeah.
When they're
I don't know. Now I just saw the preview and that he had models, modelly
Of course.
model men's. He had modelly model men's. I mean, he's just starting out. Yeah.
Tell me about model men.
Modelly model men's. He had, he didn't have like a cat, like my husband. Ken, get over here. We want to put you in one of Titus's outfit. He went to Titus.
He didn't have a real Ken. He had a Mattel Ken. That's what
He had, right. He had definitely the Mattel Ken. He didn't have the Ken Krochman like so that'd be
Ken Krochman original.
the Ken Krochman original. Well, anyway, it was fabulous. I think our time is up, wouldn't you say?
Our time has been up. We need to decide what to cut from this one. Hey, Teddy, why don't people dress for dinner?
I don't know, Melissa. Why don't people dress for dinner?
Swing.